Real estate agents, do you want to move your business forward? Well, I'm here to help. Hey guys, Brittany with Brittany Hannon Real Estate. I'm a real estate agent, coach, and investor. And every Monday at 11:30 Pacific Standard Time, I'm here to bring you information that's going to help move your business forward. Whether you're a brand new beginner or an advanced top producer, I'm going to bring you key tips and tricks and strategies to move your business forward. This is your official invitation to join us live every Monday at 11:30 a.m. They're totally free. And if you want more information about coaching, check the link in my bio and I would love to help. Now let's jump into this week's workshop. We have a lot to go through, so I want to make sure that we are jumping in today. So where we're going, so today we are going to be talking about setting yourself up for success. So you guys know I always like to talk a little bit big picture and then narrow it down. So big picture, we're going to talk about what it means to set yourself up for success. Very often I talk to agents who are like, I say, okay, you need to explain your value proposition. And they say, but what is the value that I'm bringing? Why am I charging X percent? And so we want to figure out what that is. And then we're going to talk about getting the appointment, how to get there. What do we do? And once we get there, what do we do? Then we are going to talk about Command your listing. So we're going to dive into Command. Hopefully you have Command accessible and up and running for you, because I want to make sure that coming out of this, you have an actual listing presentation that you can either take with you later on today, or you can work on later on today and finalize it. Because the idea of your listing presentation is that it's not like this, it's this huge document that's going to be so cumbersome and so hard for you to work on. We want to have you have it done and ready, and you're ready for a listing presentation this afternoon. And then we're going to talk about how to win, what's important now, and then your bonus. So make sure that you stay with us until the end. All right, so setting yourself up for this success, what is the purpose of your listing presentation? Well, the purpose of your listing presentation are a couple of key things that you want to keep in mind. One of the biggest misconceptions, one of the biggest things is that we want to find out your seller's motivation. So it's always so important to understand why it is that they're selling, what's driving them. And oftentimes what the real motivation is not what they're actually telling you. So, sometimes it's that they need to move to an area that's more affordable. Sometimes it's that they need to move, downsize. Sometimes it's that they need to upsize. Sometimes their family has changed. Sometimes it's that, like mom needs to move in with them now. And so they need a mother-in-law suite or a casita. Whatever it is, we need to find out the motivation. And we do that by asking a lot of questions. And a lot of agents have the misconception that we'll talk later about, like a pre-listing questionnaire where they're saying, okay, how many bedrooms do you want? How many bathrooms do you want? Do you want a pool, no pool, spa, tennis court? What do you want? And they think that's your listing presentation. But that is far, far, far from what a listing presentation should be. And so we're going to talk about that today. And then spoiler alert, next week, we're going to be talking about a buyer's presentation. And it's the same idea that a lot of times people think it's asking these questions, check it off the list, and then you're done. But a bigger part of it, the biggest part of it, is really digging down into your client's motivation. You also want to establish expectations. So you want them to understand what you're going to be doing for them. So in that, you're helping them to understand what the process might look like. And a lot of times that's case by case, but in general, it's kind of the same for everybody. So you want to talk about their pricing. You want to talk about if they want to sell it fast, this is how we're going to do it. If it's a major fixer, this is how we're going to do it. If it needs a little bit to get fixed, this is how we're going to do it. And then you're going to explain the process. What is the process of selling your house? First, we're going to do photos. Then we're going to do open houses. Then we're going to do private showings. Then we're going to get it under contract. Then it's going to go into escrow. Here's what escrow means. This is also where we talk about the market. So it's also really important for our clients to understand the market as it currently is. So, when we talk about having a page you know, like something in your buyer's presentation talking about the market. It's not talking about the market today that's going to change in a week. It's talking about, okay, we're going to have a page that says, let's talk about supply and demand. And we all know that with every real estate market, it's all about supply and demand. It's all about if demand is low and supply is high, lots of inventory, prices are going to be lower. But if it's like a market like today, where inventory is super, super low and supply is low, but demand is high, there are a lot of buyers, prices go up, which is why we know that if sellers wait to put their house on the market, there's going to be more demand. But if they're also trying to buy, it might be harder for them to buy because they're going to be facing a lot more competition as interest rates come down and yada, yada. We'll talk more about that next week at our buyers presentation workshop. So come next week too. But we want to establish the expectations. So we are not necessarily needing to spell it out on one page and having to change it every 2 weeks. We're just saying, here are the basics. Now here's what that means for you today. And every seller is going to be different. Did I see a question come up? No? Okay. So we want to find out the seller's motivation, establish expectations, which is also talking about the market. So expectations with maybe how long it's going to take to sell, how long it's going to sit, especially where you're going to price it and what you anticipate happening if you price it at that price. You want to explain what the process is. So that's how you're establishing those expectations. And then of course you want to make sure that you're determining a price. We're going to talk about this in just a second because we're going to talk about how to determine that price. But in general, when we're talking, you have to know what their motivation is before you can determine a price. So when you come to that meeting, which for a listing presentation is 99% of the time in person. So when you come to that meeting, you're going to be prepared, having pulled the comps and CMA, same thing, having pulled all that, and then you have a range. And so you're saying, okay, well, in your head, you know that this house will probably sell between 700 and 800,000. But if it's in really bad shape, it'll sell for 650, and it's really nice, it'll sell for 850. But if they're wanting to get rid of it and sell fast, then we need to price it at 650, and then it'll get bid up to 750, 800. But if, so you see what I'm saying is that you have to have a range in mind, but you are not, so you're not going in with a specific number, but you need to make sure that you do have an idea, because a lot of factors are going to change once you go there and have that actual meeting. You're going to say, ooh, this house is in a little bit more rough shape than what I thought it looked like from the outside. Or, wow, I had no idea this house had been totally remodeled 2 years ago. So it really depends. And if they say, you know, we're really not in a hurry, we want to get top dollar, and you say, okay, well, to get top dollar, you're going to need to spend $50,000 redoing the kitchen and bathrooms. Do you want to do that? Yes, I do. Okay, well then here's the direction we're going to take. So that's why we talk about it's case by case, but as you do more of these, you're going to realize that they all kind of start to fall into categories. They want to sell fast. This is what you do. They want to get, you know, like sell it right now and get a good price for it. This is what you do. And we'll dive through some of that as we go. So let's talk about getting the appointment. Bottom line, get an appointment. 88% of sellers hire one of the first 2 agents they meet with. What does this tell us? It tells us we have in our minds, oh my gosh, I'm going to be up against 20 different agents, and these agents are going to have 50 years of experience over me, and I am not going to be able to do it. I don't stand a chance. The reality is maybe you're going up against one other agent. 58% of sellers spend less than 3 hours researching. They're not looking too hard into this, which is a little bit crazy when you think about this is usually the largest asset that people are going to be selling. But I mean, you know, when I think about that, when I was buying my first house before I was in real estate, I was like, I don't know, go on Zillow and find somebody. Great. Like find a listing. I knew nothing. So that's your typical buyer, your typical seller. They're not spending tons of time researching. If you get the call, you go, because chances are you're going to get that listing. If you know that person, or if you come recommended by somebody, your chances skyrocketed. They just went up exponentially. There's a book that I actually really love that's called The Full Fee Agent. I mention it later on. I can't remember who it's by right now. But the idea is that, you know, especially as sometimes newer agents will go in saying, okay, I'm going to ask for 5%. I'm going to ask for 5%, ask for 5%, or whatever that is, X percent. I'm going to ask for, let's just call it 5% for the story's sake. I'm going to ask for 5%. And then they go to their, you know, they go to get in their car and they're like super nervous and they're like, okay, no, I'll be happy. I'll be happy with 4.5. I'll be happy with 4.5. Then they get to the appointment, and as soon as the seller opens the door, they're like, I'll do it for 4%. We don't want to do that. We don't want to do that. The reality is that we can and should charge what we are worth. Now, I understand that a lot of times we don't understand our value. We don't know what we're worth. However, I know plenty of agents who charge more than what the standard is, and sellers are happy to pay it when they think that they're getting that value from them. So whatever that number is that you decide is your number that you charge, stick to it. And when you are the favorite, in that book, it talks about being the favorite or the fool. If you're the favorite, if you come recommended, if you're a friend, if you're a family member, if you're the favorite in some way, you can charge whatever you want. And they're going to say, yeah, okay, fine. But if you're the fool, where basically like you're one of these two agents where they said, well, I got this recommendation and I have a friend that I'm probably going to go with, but I felt like I should get another referral. I felt like I should talk to somebody else. That the fool, even if you say, I'm going to charge you 1%, they're going to be like, oh, no, why is it so cheap? I'm not going to go with you. I'm still going to go with my friend. So the reality is, whether you're the favorite or the fool, in the beginning of your career, until you're closing on average 20 deals a year, you go on every single appointment. Even if you're the fool, you go on those appointments. And once you get to the point where you are a higher producer, then you can pick and choose. And you can say, I'm only going to work with the ones who I know that I'm the favorite. Because I will tell you, there is a big difference. When you're working with people who trust you, who respect you, who know that you're an expert, they are going to be feeling like, I mean, it's going to be the easiest transaction you've ever done. Even if it's difficult, it's going to be so much easier than if you're working with somebody who maybe you'll get a bigger paycheck potentially, but they don't trust you and they're headbutting you every chance they get, and they're like disagreeing with every decision that you recommend. That is not fun. Nobody likes to do that. Nobody enjoys doing real estate in that way. So bottom line, get to the appointment. 80% of sellers hire one of the first two agents they meet with. So be one of the first. You want to be among the first. You don't want to be that last person. Although there is some, you know, some people say, oh, I want to be the last, so it's what they remember. However, remember, a lot of times if they are meeting with a lot of people, they're going to probably make that decision in the first one or two, because they'll get decision fatigue and they'll say, I'm done. I'm just going to choose you. You seem good. I'm going to work with you. So they may not even get to you if you're the last one that they're going to meet with. So be one of the first one or two agents that people meet with, and just know it's probably only going to be one or two agents that you're up against. All right. So when we're first talking to our agents, to our clients, we have what's called a pre-listing questionnaire. Now, the questions on here, I know it's small and hard to read. The reality is it doesn't matter. You can Google something like this. If you're in coaching, we have this for you, but it's basic questions. Where are you moving? What's motivating you to move there? How soon do you have to be there? If we sold your home in the next 30 days, will that pose a problem for you? If yes, what would that problem be? So we're asking these questions to kind of get a picture in general, but more importantly, we're trying to build a rapport. So it's about building the relationship. We talked last week or a couple weeks back about how important relationships are in real estate. Relationships are everything. And so something like this, some kind of questionnaire, is a good start. That's why I'm not pushing on it too much, because it's a start. You don't want to end here. You don't want to focus too much on this. But so often agents will tell me, oh yeah, well, I asked them all these questions, so I did a listing presentation. And I'm like, this is not a listing presentation. What value did you bring to your clients? Did you bring any value, or did you just collect information from them? Collecting information can be valuable to help you in building that rapport and figuring out what you're going to talk about. But collecting information is not going to bring inherent value to your clients. It's doing what we talked about, explaining the process, establishing the expectations, helping to determine a price. Those are the kind of things that are going to bring the value that you provide. So a pre-listing questionnaire, while yes, it's important to ask some of these questions, this is kind of like a phone call before you even get there. And then you go to the appointment and then you say, okay, I know we talked about you want to get your home sold in 3 months and you need to be across the country and we need to make sure this is happening. So based on that, here's what I recommend. But you don't want to just go off of this and say, great, my job is done, like so many agents do. I want to point this out because this is something that a lot of people do. And I say, no, don't do that. So yes, something like this is helpful and beneficial, and you need to go further and deeper with it. All right, so let's talk about a CMA, establishing a price. So when we're trying to establish a price, we have to think about a couple of different things. We have to understand, number one, we have to understand what the client's motivation is. We have to know, do they want to sell fast? Now, most of the time, I will tell you, 90% of the time, that your clients are going to sell, yep, they're going to say, yes, we want to sell fast and high. We want the highest possible price, and we want to sell fast. Okay, great. That's pretty common. Like 90% of your clients will say that. But we also have to remember that 10% of our clients are going to say something different. They're going to say, I'm in no rush, and I want this to be as smooth and easy as possible. For instance, I shared this story with you before, but my grandparents sold their house last year, and they're older, like in their 90s. And so my sister was the one who was really dealing with it, and I had referred another agent to take over. And that my sister kept telling me, oh, this agent is driving me crazy, because the agent kept sending people at like 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock at night to go view the house. Notice I said sending people, not bringing people. He just was like, oh, this person wants to come see it, so can they go see it? And my grandparents are old and they want to go to bed. They're in bed by 7 o'clock. And so they were like, no, you cannot show it past 6 o'clock. And it was a big deal because this agent was like, but this is how we're going to get it sold. We have to show, we have to do this. And this agent forgot that their motivation was not to sell fast. Their motivation was easy. And they said, even if we have to sell it for a lower price, even they had hundreds of thousands of dollars in equity. They didn't care if they sold it for $10,000 less. So they were like, even if it takes, like a month longer, or we need to discount the price a little bit, we don't care. We need it to be a smooth transaction. And not just a smooth transaction, they needed it to be easy. And they needed it to be, like I said, we can't do showings past 6 o'clock. We don't want to do showings on the weekends. We're going to have to figure out how to get our grandparents out of the house during all these times. So you have to understand your client's motivation. It's so important because everybody is different. And you have to understand Like, what if they have accessibility issues? What if they have a son who's in a wheelchair and it's very difficult to get them in and out of the house? What if and it's going to be hard to show? What if there's a renter in there and it's going to be hard to show? All of these things are going to determine a price. If it's going to be more difficult to show, and I will say, most of the time, the more difficult it is, the lower the price you want it to be. So the same kind of thing, like this is pretty much going to be your strategy, is that if it's going to be a difficult transaction, or not transaction, but like to show and all that kind of stuff, or if it's something that they want to sell it really fast, you want to price it lower. So what we want to do is when we're looking at our comps, the CMA is our comparative market analysis, we don't just want to look at what's in that one little area. That's what the appraiser is going to look at. So that's a good idea to have to know what is an appraiser going to value this at. We want to know, and they're only going to look in a 1 mile radius. But a buyer is not going to look in just a 1 mile radius. A buyer is going to say, I want to look at this whole city. I want to see the city of Ventura. Sometimes they say, I want to see the county of Ventura. So we need to be able to say, okay, let's not just look at this one tract of homes, this 1 mile radius. Let's also look at, in the whole city, what is selling for around this price? What are the homes that are 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, just like what my listing is? What is it that they're selling for? And then see what's been sitting on the market. That's going to tell you what the current buyers have been rejecting. That's going to give you a really good idea of where to start. Now, this is not a class for, talking about appraisals or anything like that. But if you end up saying, like we're probably going to get to a time when people are going to be overbidding again. Probably in the summer, we're going to see that again. So if you do price it low and people are overbidding by 50,000, 75,000, 100,000, then you do have to say like, okay, well, what is it going to appraise for? So you do need to still have that comp for that general area. But you also, what was very common was waiving appraisals or paying for the appraisal gap. So just know that once you're in that situation, there's a lot that you can do to work around that. It's not an issue, but you want to be looking at that wider area, what the buyers have been rejecting, and you want to look at the smaller 1 mile radius. And then we price low to sell fast. So if we want to sell it quick, we price it low. If it's something that's a fixer, we want to price it low. If they are going to be very particular and the showings are going to be hard, if there's a renter in it and they're not really allowing a lot of showings, we price it low. In a lot of situations, pretty much the more difficult it is, or the more challenging, or the more specific, we want to price it low. And then if people bid it up, we have the other problem where we say, oh no, this isn't going to appraise. And great, we take care of that problem by figuring it out on the other end. But this is what we're looking at when we're doing a CMA and establishing that price. So let's jump back though. Hey guys, we're going to jump into the workshop in just a second, but if you're getting value out of this, be sure to hit the like and subscribe button so you get more videos just like this as soon as they come out. And remember, if you're interested in coaching, reach out to me at the link below. I'd love to talk more about your individual business and how I could help move your business forward. Now let's jump back into the workshop. Okay, what I want to do is I want to show you. Now, I want to show you super quick how I would run a comp. And so I'm not, remember, everybody, we have people from 8+ different market centers on this call. So if your MLS looks different, it is what it is, and that's okay. So I'm just going to show you quick and dirty. Here's how I would do this, and then you can figure it out from there. But I want to give you a basic idea. So one of the tools that I really love to use is called Cloud CMA. It's included with my association dues, but I don't know if it's included with the rest of yours. For you guys in this room, it is, you're good. But if it's not included with yours, it may be something that you want to look into because I think it is a great value. However, what I wanted to show you is basically how I would look at a certain area. So I'm gonna just, because I know the area of this listing, I have a listing over here, and I'm gonna pull up this area. One of the issues with doing it direct from the MLS is that I have to know exactly on the map where it is, because as you'll see, we're pulling it up from the map. So if I'm going to this area and I say, I would say, okay, well, I know my listing is a single family house, so I only want to look at single family houses. I don't want to look at condos or anything like that. And then I know that it's 3 bedrooms. So I want to make sure that it's at least 3 bedrooms, what I'm looking at, 2 bathrooms. Now, what I want to do is I want to now say, okay, let's look at this area. This is actually a really big area. I would look at a much smaller area, but let's just take this for example. You can see everything that's listed here currently. And then I can go and see it in list form. This is what is actively on the market. Now I will tell you, this is like a lot, but this would be one of those things where I'm going in and looking to see, okay, what have the buyers rejected in this area? What's been sitting on the market? So I can look to see, okay, this has been sitting on the market for 72 days and it's listed at this. So these are the things that, you know, I could look at. What I want to show you is, and this is not a good example because this is like in Beverly Hills area where they have like $20 million listings. This is not going to be the same as my $1 million listing. But what I can go in and look at is I can say, okay, well, what if I'm thinking it's going to be priced around 1.1? Look, this one is 1.1. It's 3 beds, 3 baths. So I can look at this one, look at the location, look at the square footage, look at the pictures and see like, okay, how does it compare to mine? Because as a buyer, they're going to look at all of this area and they're going to say, well, this one is a way better deal than that one. And they're not going to care if it's on this one street or if it's in this one block. They might care if they're like specifically looking for a school district or something like that. But in general, your buyers are looking at a much bigger area. So you want to look at that bigger area and see what's on the market, see what the buyers have rejected. And then what we want to do, I'm going to show you because I want to show you how easy it is. I'm going to Cloud CMA just so I can show you real quick. And let's do a sample. Okay, it'll pop up for me. Oops. And actually the tax records on this are wrong, so I have to adjust it, but normally it does it the right way. So now, quick and easy, and again, like I said, I'm not like walking through this to train you on this, I just want to show you what's out there. So you can see it's in a smaller area. Now across, this is a major freeway. This is the 10 freeway. So across the freeway, these are probably not going to be good comps. So I'm going to say, what is this one? 3651 Cardiff. I'm going to take that one off of there. So I'm going to uncheck that because I'm going to say that's not a good comp. This 830, that's not a good comp. Take that off of there. Same thing with this 788. That's a condo. That's not going to be a good comp. So take that off. And I can now start to say, all right, what are going to be things that are better comps for me? This 599, that's not going to be a good one. So maybe let's put in like this 1.5 or 1.4. So now I'm starting to see, and then I can look and I can say, okay, well, what does this house actually look like? And I can say, oh, okay, well, it's in comparable condition to the one I'm listing. And how long has it been on the market? It tells me how many days on market 76. It's listed at 1.5. Well, it's more square feet than mine. So here's where now we're looking at specifics. We're looking to see how does this compare to the listing that I have? And now we're getting into the nitty gritty. And this is where we say, okay, you want to make sure that your pricing also compares with what's in the neighborhood, which is what we're looking at here. But overall, you also want to make sure that you're comparing it with what your buyers are looking at. So then once we decide on what we want, we go to customize report. And I've already played around with this and I already have everything. So if you were playing around with this, you would have a lot more stuff on here and you would just have to like move it, put it back, move it around, click and drag. What I like about this is that there's this summary. So, oh no, problem loading, that always happens when I'm trying to share. So what I like about this one is that what it shows is for our analytical people, our numbers people, it does have a summary where it's kind of a one-line summary, which is similar to what you could get in the MLS, which is like a one-line summary in the MLS. But this one, in my opinion, is easier to read. You're able to see the averages and all of that kind of stuff. But then you also have the details, including photos. So for people who want to see things like more images and understand it more that way, you have both of these. So oftentimes when you're meeting with somebody, it's very important that you understand their personality, right? We talk about the DISC profile a lot. And so somebody who is like a high D and like, just tell me what the numbers are. That's me. I'm like, just get it to me. I don't care. The summary is going to be great. But somebody who's a high I is like, they're more interpersonal. They're like, oh, well, what do you think about it? Well, tell me about your opinion on this. And let me see some pictures. I need to feel the vibes. I need to know what this is like. How often do we have people, like a couple, who's exactly the same? Never, right? Like we're never gonna have somebody exactly the same. We're always gonna have people who are on like different opposite sides of the spectrum when it comes to this kind of thing. So I like to have something like this where it has something for everyone. It has a summary and it has photos and it has everything. Then once you're done with this, you can publish and it gives you a nice PDF. You can print that out, bring it with you. It's branded with your name. I really should be a spokesperson for them because I love Cloud CMA, but this is really, I'm just trying to tell you, you have lots of resources out there for quick, easy ways to do a CMA. A CMA does not need to take you 15 hours. A CMA helps to get you really like in the nitty gritty of the houses that have sold and that are active. And then you want to really look at what are the houses that are, what are the listings that are currently active that haven't sold yet. So you want to know the area, you want to know what the buyers are looking at, and that's what you're specifically looking for when you're trying to figure out the pricing. And remember, it always goes back to your client's motivation. So if your clients are saying, I want to sell super fast, great, then we're going to need to be less than what all of these other houses are that are similar in the area, because buyers have seen these and they've rejected these. So if you want to sell fast, we need to be lower than that. And when you come with something concrete, like the CMA that's easy to read, all of that, it's great. Yes, we have a question in the room.
I have a question. You said several times, and you said that it's been rejected. What do you mean by that?
So basically what we talk about is when a house sits on the market, essentially what we're saying is that house at that price has been rejected by the buyers. The buyers have seen it and they've said, no, I don't want that. So that's all we're saying. This is what the buyers are rejecting. It's been sitting on the market. Buyers have seen it because buyers see everything. It's all on Zillow. The serious buyers know it's there, but they don't want it. So they've rejected it.
How many days do you look at that where it seems to be a concern or rejected?
It depends. Good question. It depends on the area, because some of the areas, like in the high priced areas, it's not uncommon for something to sit for 30, 60, 90 days. But in an area like a suburban area, it's very common for things to go in 3 days. And so if something has been sitting for 15 days, what's the issue? It's telling me that the buyers have seen that and rejected that house at that price.
That's soon.
Does that make sense? Well, it depends. If everything is going in 3 days and something is sitting, why is it sitting?
Right. Okay.
But if things are going in 30 days and something goes in 15, wow, that was fast. So it's all relative. And that's why, that's why it's really good to kind of study up on this and see what are, what are the houses selling for in these areas? What are they really, what are they selling for, not just in the general area, but all around in the whole neighborhood, in the whole city. All right, so let's jump back in. Okay, so we talked about establishing that price, getting the appointment. Now let's jump into Command. So what can we do in Command? So we're going to create our listing presentation. Oh, we never have time for this, but I always love talking about creating checklists in your opportunities in Command. That is one, hands down, one of the best features in Command. The only thing I would say could be tweaked is I wish I could share my template with you, which I can't. But if you're a part of coaching, we have a template of a transaction template, and then you could take that and essentially transcribe it into your opportunities. So because we never end up getting to that, I want to show you what I'm talking about. And then we'll jump into creating the listing appointment or the listing presentation. All right, so here I'm in Command, and I'm going to go to my opportunities. So in opportunities, let me see if I have a sample one. Okay. I don't think I need to have a sample. I think I can go in here and still look and show you. Bear with me, please. No, that's wrong. I want to find a sample. Hold, please. All right, let me see. I think I have a sample in the buyers. Okay. Here we go. I don't need it because what I'm looking for is up here. This says stages and checklists. So if I click on this, you'll be able to see these checklists. Let's go out of here because this is not a good example. I want to have inactive stages and checklists. Now this is all totally customizable. So when you go into yours, you're going to see 0 out of 0 on all of these checklists. So you can see I have here under the showings, I have 0 out of 2 items. So that's basically saying I'm going to have a checklist of 2 items when somebody is in this space. So the 2 items, when I click on that, it says run comps for property and prepare offer and review with buyer. So some of these are kind of well, this is why do you need a checklist to tell you to write an offer? But the reality is that when you're a newer agent, you may not need these checklists, but when you're a newer agent, that's when it's super, super helpful. But when you're an agent who's going super fast, you want to make sure that you're checking everything off the list and you're not missing out on anything. Just like pilots, they may have flown 10,000 times, but they still go through a checklist before every takeoff. And so we need to also remember that we need to go through checklists. So the way that we do this is we just simply go to add item and we would add the task for whatever that is. Run comps, create a CMA, whatever we want to do. We could include it in the client update. What this is your client has to be connected with your app, or they have to be connected with your website. So they have to have signed in at some point. If they're not, then even if you click that, they still won't get the updates. So that's one really good reason to have your clients connected with your app so that they can get automatic updates. But you can decide whether that's a client update or not. You can add a description that's a reminder for you. You can add a priority level, all of this kind of stuff. Then you can move these around and figure out where you want them. And then when you're done, we just press save. So I'm going to go to one that has more items, and that might be more helpful because this is based on each stage. So as your client moves up in stages, you're going to put different checklist items on each stage and in each phase. So let me go back and let's go to under contract, and then I'll go to stages again. And you can see here now there are more items. So 6 items. We want to reach out and congratulate our clients and then tell them what's next. We always want to make sure our clients know what's coming. Then we want to send an executed offer to our TC. We want to make sure our TC has everything they need. Confirm the appraisal has been ordered. Schedule inspections. Remove the buyers from the MLS strip campaigns because they're under contract. They don't need to constantly be seeing new houses because they're going to be like, this is the wrong one. No, we don't need them to think about that. Confirm earnest money deposit. So the beauty of these is that basically this is your template. So if I put any client into my opportunity, they're going to get this same template. But if I say, okay, well, actually this client is paying cash and I'm supposed to be confirming an appraisal, well, they don't need an appraisal and they don't want an appraisal. So I can cross that one off of that client's list, but on this template, it's still the same. So this is a template that you're changing. And then once you go in, you can edit it. This is so helpful. And let me go into the listing side because that's what we're talking about today. So if we go in, actually, let's go to under contract. So you can see under contract, we have some items. Send the executed offer to your TC. Congratulate, change the status in the MLS, confirm the earnest money deposit, add your under contract rider to your yard sign. You can edit these however you want, but in general, these are things you want to do. We also, I also have in one of these, hold on, to like change your social media, put on your social media what you want to do. We have inspections complete, send the RRRR, which is the response to the request for repair. So if you've got a request for repair, then you need to send a response. Again, what if they said, we don't want any repairs? Well, then you go into that one client and you say, check that off the list. They don't need that. But you go through. The other really nice thing is that this connects to your tasks. And so if you set a time frame for this, for each transaction, it'll connect to your tasks. And so it'll say, don't forget, you need to confirm that the appraisal was ordered. Don't forget that you need to confirm that the inspection was set. Don't forget that you need to figure out if all the contingencies have been removed. And you can set dates for that. So it makes it really helpful. I'm telling you, this was such a game changer for me personally. And because I'm a list person, because I can't keep anything in my brain. I need to have it out on paper. And so this is so helpful to have. Really, it'll take you probably half an hour to do it on the front end, and then you'll have it for the rest of time. And I'm telling you, it'll make such a big difference. Okay, so I'm not going to go into any more with that. I want you to dive in there and play with it on your own. It's pretty self-explanatory. Once you see it and know that it's there, you can dive in and do it and play with it on your own. So the next thing that I want to talk about are going to be our listing presentations. And so we're going to go into designs, and I'm going to create one from scratch because I want to show you that it's easy to do and how to do it. And I want to show you some pro tips too. So I'm going to go to create design. And remember, I want you to follow along as much as you can, but I'm going to go probably faster than you will, and that's okay. So I'm going to click on print just because that's the type of item that I want. Even if I'm never going to print it out, I'm only going to send a PDF. And remember, it's going into a separate website. So this is different from Command. So when you start to press back, it'll be different. Okay, so just as a side note, this is a new auto create where it takes your listing and it'll create all of this like marketing materials for you. It's actually really cool. I just used it for the first time a couple weeks ago, and it was very helpful. I created a couple of items in 10-15 minutes. The only thing you want to make sure about is that remember, Command is nationwide, if not global, I'm not sure, but at least it's nationwide, and not every place has our same standards. And so one of our standards is that you have to have your DRE number on all of your marketing materials. And another thing is you have to have your market center's DRE number also on those materials. So make sure that you're confirming that it has that. And if it doesn't, it's easy to throw it on there. So just a reminder for those things. Before we get started, we want to go to assets. This is going to be to make your life much easier. Basically, these are your templates. And so if you have like your pictures, oh wait, that's text, images. If you have your headshots, wait, no, sorry, I'm on the wrong thing. Close that. We want to go into my assets. So we go into images. So if you have headshots, you plop those in there. Logos, if you have your market center logo, you can see I have them in all different like white, black, gray scale. I have them all different kinds. You can get that from your market center. Just reach out to your market center and ask them for the PDFs or the files for this, and they'll send you a whole file. And you can just plop it in here. And if you want to save it in here, you can, because you can always go and download it from here. So you can add a bunch of stuff to this, but the most important are going to be the logos and then your headshot. And the reason I say that is because now we're going to go back to templates, which is the first page that we were on. We're going to go down to listings, and we're just going to click on listing presentation. So essentially these are all the same and they're like ready to go for you. However, you can't just take one and print it out and be done with it. You have to tweak it and edit it a little bit. So what you're looking, they're all basically going to have the same content in them. So you're just looking for like the look and feel that you like. So if I just click on this one, I don't think I've used this one yet. If I click on this, you'll notice that there are 29 pages down here. That is way too many. Nobody wants to sit through 29 pages of something. So what we want to do is we just want to pare down. So first and foremost, all of these for some reason have two different title pages. So we have this title page, then we have an explanation page. So right away, we can take this off after you've read it. We just click on those three little dots and say delete. Now, yes, delete. Now we're down, yes, delete. Now we're down already. So great, we only have 28 pages. Now this page I like a lot better than this one. So I'm right away gonna take off that page. And you'll notice this says client name. I don't ever, for my listing presentations or my buyer presentations, I want them to be static. I want to make it once and then maybe tweak it once a year. I don't want to redo one every single time. What I want to do is I want to have this ready to go so that if I have a listing appointment tonight, I can send it on over. And I want all of the specifics removed from it. But what I'm going to have that's specific to them in their home is a CMA. So I might print out the CMA and this I'm going to email over. Or maybe I'll print this out too, but it's not going to have all these specifics. So you can do it how you want. This is how I do it. So you want to change this verbiage to whatever you want to do, like listing presentation, oops, listing consultation, whatever you want to call it. You can remove this completely. I'm just double clicking on all of this. And if you click on it like this, and press delete, it takes it away completely. You can change the font color. You can do whatever. If you're trying to get this done quickly, I would not recommend that. Just do it as is, leave it how it is. Nobody's going to be like, you chose red for your font color. I didn't really like that, so I'm not going to use you to sell my house. Nobody is going to care. So remember I said you are going to need to tweak a few things. You can't just print this out and you're good to go. So some of it is going to be like this stuff. You need to change your picture. But remember when we added our assets, now if we're on images and we go to my assets, oh, look, we have the pictures already there. And if we press this swap, replace image, it'll replace it in the same format as the image that is on there. So it makes it super easy. Oops, there we go. It makes it super easy to do that. Let me press done. And now we're done. Now we say compliments of Brittany Hannon. I just click on that and then I find the little typewriter. And then I'm going to put Brittany Hannon. And then you also want to put in your information. And remember, add your DRE number. You have to make sure to add your DRE number. And then down here, remember, I clicked on that and it knows it's a logo. And since I already have my logos uploaded, I can just replace the logo. And now it replaced it. So I'm done with that page. Well, I'd have to change these, but you can see you're done with this page. If you want to make it bigger to see, like, what does it say down here? Each Keller Williams independently owned and operated. This is the address for your Keller Williams. So you want to change the address for that. And that's a good place to put your broker's DRE number. Good to go. Now, as we get into this, now these pages are boilerplate. You don't have to change anything. What you want to do is you want to edit to your specifications. So remember I said 27 pages is way too long. We want to get it down to like 10 pages, 12 pages max. So because of that, we don't need a table of contents. So get this out of here. We're done with that. And remember what we talked about, this property, this is specific to that property. Nope, we don't want that. Get it out of there. So we're just going to go through and delete anything that's specific to a neighborhood, delete it. This is also comparable properties. We're going to have that separately, delete this. Then we're going to have, now here's where we start talking about like getting down to their motivation. Now remember, we already did kind of a pre-qualifying questionnaire. So we don't need to have this deep of a conversation here. But what I like to have literally is I have a page that talks something like this. And basically this page, let me make it bigger, is saying like, what's one thing that has to happen to make your dream scenario a reality? How can I make that happen for you? Why is this important to you? What I want to say is, I know we already talked about the fact that you want to move to the beach and you want a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom with a pool and a spa, and you want it to be single story because you want to be able to live there for the rest of your life, blah, blah, blah. Is there anything else that you've thought of since the last time we talked? No, that's it? Okay, great. Now we move on. Done with this page. So you see, I'm using this as a prompt to have that conversation and to build the relationship. But I'm not reading this as a script. I'm not saying, okay, visualize your dream scenario for selling your home. No, I'm just saying, okay, I know this page is about your needs. So we talked about this. Has anything changed? No, yes, okay, great. Then remember we said part of this is about establishing expectations. So we want to make sure, I like having a process. Now, I'm not sure, I think that I must have played around with this before because this should not be empty. And if it is, just delete this page and don't worry about it. But you want to have a page that talks about the process. And again, I'm not reading every single word as if it was, a script. I'm saying, okay, so because we want to sell your home fast, this is what it's going to look like. We're going to do photos on this day, and then we're going to figure out a timeline. We're going to get your house clean. We're going to, that kind of thing. And then we're going to talk about once you're in escrow, in general, this is what's going to happen. The reality is, just like today, I'm like overwhelming you with information. You're going to hold on to like maybe 10% of it if we're lucky. It's the same thing when you're in a listing presentation. You're giving them so much information, they're not going to hold on to very much of it. And so you want to give them something to hold on to at the end and refer back to, but you're also going to be reminding them about what you talked about throughout the transaction. So you want to refer back and say, So remember, we talked about how the market is a little bit up and down right now, and so we are gonna have to make a price, adjustment or whatever it is. This is where you talk about some of that kind of stuff and establish those expectations because you've already talked through the process. So when you have to come back around, you refer back to, remember when we talked about this? And it's a little bit, they're like, oh yeah, I remember. But they're not gonna need to get everything all at once. So we're not reading off every single little thing. For the people who want to do that, they can go back and read every single little thing, great. But I'm not gonna read every single thing off. The next things are gonna be like your marketing plan, finding your buyer. A lot of these things are very similar. The information is very similar. And so I would take it out and I would choose my favorite things. I think that I like this page because it has like a lot of stuff, your media plan, property brochure, just listed flyer, just listed postcard, coming soon email, open house email, blah, 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 all this stuff. Now you have to make sure that you actually do these things, but you can do all of these things in Command. So you can do all these, but you have to make sure you do because you're saying this is part of the value that I provide. And so now you're starting to say, oh, this is the value that I provide. And you're starting to get an idea for it. So when it comes to like, I like this page, so I would leave this page in, but like this page, I would take this out. Best in class promotional assets, finding your buyer. It's like, it's mostly online. Okay, great. If you want to keep that in, keep it in, but take out some of these others. So you want to go through and really look at what these pages are saying and take a lot of them out. Strategic promotion. Again, I would take this out because I'm talking through that with them. Open house strategy, taking it out. All of this kind of stuff I'm going to take out because unless I feel like my clients ask about that and need to know that, I'm taking it out. Now we start getting into talking about me and or our brokerage. Remember, anytime you are talking about like these numbers, you can use your brokerage's numbers. You can use your market center's numbers. So if you're like, I don't have much business to speak of, or I've only been in business for 6 months, don't worry about that. You can use your market center's numbers, or you can take this page out completely and say delete. So that's the beauty of this, is that really you don't have to adjust these, and you can. Same kind of thing like credentials and awards. You don't have any, great, take it out. And as you go, you're trimming it down, leading the industry. You don't need to have that. Portfolio of excellence, use your market centers. If you have some great listings from your market centers, use that. And again, it's not something that you have to change regularly, but if you change it once every 6 months, once a year, great. And you notice this is just a different view of the last page. You only need one of these, so take out the other one. Once you're done with this, at the very end, it's going to be a how to get in touch with you. So you want to make sure that your information is in there and it's done. So obviously you have to do a tiny bit of work, but the work that you have to do will probably take you less than an hour. And what I know is that many agents go months and months and months without creating a listing presentation at all, because they think it's going to be, they don't know how to, they don't know where to find the resources, they think it's going to take a long time, or they say, I don't have any clients, so why do I need a listing presentation? And then they get somebody who wants a listing presentation and they're like, oh, I don't know how to do it. And they only think, how do I do a CMA? And that's the listing presentation that they have. Or they're asking questions about, they're doing the pre-qualification. That's not a listing presentation. Something like this is a listing presentation. And remember, the key to this is that you're using it to build rapport. You're building it to build a relationship. All right, so we sped through that super fast. So let's talk about what's important now. And you guys have heard this from me time and time again, and I feel like sometimes people are like, yeah. I mean, I think people think, oh yeah, I believe that. Practice makes perfect and all that kind of stuff. And then they don't do it. Like so many people don't practice. So don't practice on your clients. Role play, know your talk tracks. A brain surgeon is not practicing surgery on his patients. Not that we're brain surgeons, or her patients, but we're not surgeons and it's not brain surgery, but it does require practice. And remember, I always say, I learned in bold and I loved it. Amateurs practice until they get it right. Professionals practice until they can't get it wrong. So bottom line, you need to practice. Practice, practice, practice. Pull sample CMAs. Pull it for every house in your area. I pulled it up in 5 minutes. See how easy it is to pull it up. Start practicing with that so that you get good at it. Because I guarantee you, when you do get a listing, you're gonna be like, oh my gosh, how do I pull this up? And what am I looking for? And how do I price it? And I don't know, and I need to talk to people. But if you have practiced it, it's not as big of a deal. It's pretty easy to do it. And you can do it probably in half an hour to an hour. Really in-depth studying in an hour, I would say. Practice, practice, practice. Create your listing presentation today. Don't let this day end without having a completed listing presentation. I just showed you where to do one on Command. Command, though, is not the only place that you can do a listing presentation. For those in my market center, we have Michael Lewis Marketing that we use. They have a listing presentation that's ready to go. It's the same kind of thing. You just put your name in there and then you use the pages that you want to use. You don't have to use commands, but you have to have something. And once you have something, you have to practice it. So practice it in the mirror. I love to record myself and then watch it back because I'm my biggest critic. So I'm able to be like, ooh, don't say that. That was awkward. Don't say it with that intonation. Like, don't say that joke. That was uncomfortable. And so I'm able to really go back and have better, I think, better critiques for myself than if I'm doing it with a stranger who would be like, that's great. You did such a good job. So make sure that you are practicing. And even if you're like uncomfortable to do it with other people, do it on yourself, do it in a mirror, record yourself on your phone. And also make sure you're practicing with other people. Because guess what? When you do a listing presentation for real, hopefully there are going to be other people there in the room with you. So make sure that you're comfortable. All right. And finally, the bonus. Thank you guys for sticking with me. I know we're a little bit over. The MREA book. Right now there is the MREA book club going on where like KW high ups are going through the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book, and they're talking through a lot of the information in there. So this is a really good book. I read this book probably once a year because it is exactly that. It's case studies of millionaire real estate agents. And millionaire real estate agents still practice their listing presentations. They still are going over figuring out better ways to do listings and to price homes and all that kind of stuff. And it talks about that in this book. Command checklists. This is another thing that I really do use in my own business. So I encourage you. This is one thing, again, it's going to take you half an hour to set it up, but it'll save you hours and hours and hours and hours and hours of time. So I really encourage you to do this. Cloud CMA, a fantastic resource. If you guys have access to it, play around with it. You cannot mess it up. Just don't send it out to people if you mess it up. But you can't mess it up. Just play around with it and see all it has to offer because it has a lot to offer. Oh, and then this is the book that I was telling you guys about, The Full Fee Agent by Chris Voss and Steve Shull. Chris Voss wrote Never Split the Difference. And he was a hostage negotiator with the FBI and wrote that book. And then Steve Shull was a real estate, well, he was like some sports guy and then a real estate agent. And they ended up writing The Full Fee Agent together. So based on ideas from Never Split the Difference. So I really liked this book. I encourage you guys to read it, listen to it, whatever. Next week, this is like part 2. We're going to talk about mastering your buyer presentation. And I will tell you a little spoiler. It is similar to this, where we're going to talk about, it's all about building the relationship. It's all about building that rapport. And so once you have that, meeting with people, talking with people makes it much easier. We will add on a little bit of lead gen next week to talk about how to get those buyers and what's happening right now, like how to talk to them, like why is now the best time. a little bit more because it's kind of part 2 to this, but join me next week. And then if you guys ever have questions about coaching or want to learn more, you have my info, BrittanyHannonRealEstate@gmail.com. All of these videos are always recorded and put on my YouTube channel. I see that we have a couple of questions in the chat or some things in the chat. Let me review. Any questions in the room?
So let's say I'm doing an open house.
Yes.
And let's say someone comes in and they're interested, but they have to sell their current home.
Love that.
To buy the next home.
Mm-hmm.
So in that timeline of things, when it comes to setting the appointment, getting there, walking the property to find like a real establishing value, could be beat up, could be in great condition. When in this timeline would you create the CMA and send them the CMA? Is that before you?
So I bring the CMA to the appointment.
Okay.
So I create it first, and that's how I establish the range.
Yeah.
Then I go to the appointment, and then I say, okay, it's a little more beat up than we thought or whatever. But I've already said, I've already looked and said, okay, here's some houses that are a little more beat up. Here's some houses that are a little bit nicer. So here's kind of that range. And then I want to talk to them. Well, where did you hope to land in this?
Okay.
And see where they kind of fall. Helps to get that motivation conversation going too, because then you're saying, oh, you wanted $2.7 million in a $700,000 area?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Right.
How'd you come to that number? And so again, you're just building that rapport and building that relationship.
Go ahead.
So anyway, when it comes to tactical, when do you do that? I do it before and bring it to the listing appointment and walk through it with them.
Okay. Yeah, because I think that the last 2 that I've had, one was just this weekend, they were wondering where value they could get for their home.
Mm-hmm.
And we're also talking about possibly using that if they sell it to buy something next. I sent them the CMA before the appointment. Mm-hmm. It would be better if I could set the appointment and then be like, oh, okay, I'll go ahead and bring that over with me. Yeah,
because sending them a CMA would just be similar to being like, well, here's this estimate.
Yeah.
Which is not bad. I have automated things that it's like, you want to know your home's value, but then I follow it up to say, and I can't give you a true value until I come see it, until I do a walkthrough. Okay. So I want to make sure that they know, even if I wouldn't send it before. I would say, let's meet up and talk. And I want to make sure that I'm getting those very close to the appointment. So if it's like, oh, you want to meet tomorrow? Great. I'll pull them tomorrow morning. Okay. You want to meet in 2 weeks? Great. I'll probably pull them, I'll probably do them twice. I want to get an idea and then I'll pull them again the day of, to see if things have changed.
So let's say you're working the open house and they bring that up. They're like, oh, we would want to know maybe what our house is worth. Mm-hmm. Would you, instead of saying, oh, hey, I can create a CMA for you and send it over, being like, oh, hey, is there a good day maybe this week that we can meet and we can go over? Okay. So setting that. Okay.
Yes. And then if they're like, no, just tell me what it is. You could do that where my first push would be, okay, let's set an appointment and I'd love to come and talk to you about that. Mm-hmm. And then if they're like, no, I just want you to send me some info, then I would say, okay, I can do that too, but I can't give you a firm number. So we really don't know what we're looking at until I come and do a walkthrough. So I'd love to schedule that, even if it's a couple weeks out, and just still get to that in person, because that's where it really is. Well, I hope that helped. And remember, I'm here every Monday at 11:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time to help you move your business forward. Join me in the weekly workshops where you can come live and get your questions answered in real time. I would love to see you there. Register at the link below. And remember, if you have questions about coaching or want to dive in, or even just want to have a call to me to see how you can grow your business, schedule a call with me in the link below. I'd love to help. In the meantime, if you're getting value out of this, be sure to like and subscribe. Thanks for staying for the whole thing. Check out the other videos that we have that are sure to move your business forward. Thanks, and we'll see you next time.